Thank you all so much for tuning into this live stream segment of Mikasa Sukasa. I am, of course, your humble host, Niko House. Today, we're going to be covering uh, David Pakman and his ridiculous smears. It was like the video itself was a disingenuous smear. And then, of course, in the midst of the video, um, he starts stringing a bunch of other smears together against Tulsi Gabbard. Now, as you can tell, and you will be able to tell in the video, David doesn't have a lot of love lost for Tulsi, um, which is interesting to me. It really is. It really is interesting to me because he has come out and said himself that Bernie Sanders, although he may be the front runner, he hasn't officially endorsed him yet, and that he has about 3 candidates that he is thinking about endorsing. 3 candidates that he is thinking about supporting. And it's really interesting to me because if the other candidate isn't Tulsi, then who the hell else is progressive enough for a progressive to support them? Well, the answer is simple. There is nobody else, and David Pakman isn't a progressive. But let's go ahead. I'll let him tell the story. And as he tries to finagle and bullshit his way into proving his point, we're going to debunk some of the things that he says. Well, actually, a lot of the things that he says. It's a 4-minute clip, so you got to work with me. But don't worry, we're going to get to it. We're going to get to it.
Congress. She represents Hawaii. She's also running for the Democratic presidential nomination. And it turns out that she's advising a Koch brother funded think tank, which to begin with is strange for a supposed Bernie-crat. But also the more interesting element of it, or maybe more concerning, is that she left the fact that she's involved with this think tank out of her financial disclosure form for 2017. So let's walk it through. Gabbard is an advisor to the Center for Statesmanship at Catholic University. And the Koch brothers made a big deal when this think tank was established. They gave a $2.35 billion grant out of their foundation to create this. And on their website, Tulsi Gabbard is listed as an advisor. Okay, so the Koch brothers, they push right-wing libertarian sort of ideology. We know that. Why is a Bernie supporting Democrat advising them? Well, one explanation would be that.
Okay, do you hear what he just tried to do right there? He said the Koch brothers push right wing libertarian, which is true. It is true. They do that. But he just tried to say why is a Bernie-crat advising them? She's not advising them. She's an advisor in a council of advisors on this particular foundation with Catholic University of the United States. But that's David though. That's what he does. He likes to do things like that. He's very Rachel Maddow-ish when it comes to YouTube broadcasting. But trust me, it gets worse.
The libertarian anti-interventionism sort of overlaps with Tulsi Gabbard's apparent anti-interventionism, and that kind of brings them together with the Koch brothers and with this think tank. Except that that's not even really accurate, because Gabbard has said many times before that she's a hawk on terrorism. So
you hear once again he tried to conflate anti-interventionism with being a hawk on terrorism. As a veteran, as a soldier, I imagine that Tulsi Gabbard would be a hawk on terrorism. I don't. I think that. What are you supposed to be when it comes to terrorism? I don't approve of terrorism. I'm pretty sure Bernie Sanders doesn't approve of terrorism. Considering that David Pakman will later on in the video, which you'll hear in a second, actually essentially tries to say that because she visited Assad that she's a sympathizer, and they are alleging that Assad has done things that are like terrorist-like. I imagine that David Pakman, when it's convenient for his argument, it's probably a hawk on terrorism too, considering he makes nonsensical arguments as to why people can't meet with certain leaders, despite the fact that they meet with every party in the country. But also, she made that statement in 2015. So there's that. And even if she made that statement, and she only made it once, but he said she made it several times. She didn't make it several times. She made it one time. It's been cycled and recycled several times. It was before she became this super anti-war candidate. And I don't really see what being a hawk on terrorism specifically can still exist and coexist with being anti-interventionist. That's okay. Like, I can be in a country not like terrorism and still be anti-interventionist. It's possible. I don't approve of terrorism and I'm still anti-interventionist. So let's continue.
Says she's against intervention when what she really means is she's against certain interventions that she doesn't find align with her views. Like, for example, leaving dictator Bashar al-Assad in power. We could debate, is he a good guy or a bad guy? But that's a separate question from should the U.S. be involved in regime change or not? Or
name me one intervention that Tulsi Gabbard has been for. Name me one. Name me one. Seriously, name me one. Because anybody here, name me one intervention that Tulsi Gabbard has been for. Even in her hawkish days, if you want to call them that. She's only been a congresswoman since, 2012? I think 2012. So even in her quote-unquote most hawkish days, when has she ever said we need to go into a regime and overthrow it? But he just alleged that. That's what he just alleged. Let's continue.
Whenever, but her position really seems to be intervention when it suits her particular political views and priorities rather than simply for or against intervention. But anyway, we could argue for a while about what...
So, once again, that's a blatant lie. It's a blatant lie. I don't know what else to say, but that is a blatant lie. You have just described neoliberals and neoconservatives. You didn't describe Tulsi Gabbard. You described neoliberals and neoconservatives. You described yourself, actually. You have been pushing for Venezuela. You have been pushing tacitly and directly supporting the apartheid in Israel. You've been attacking Ilhan, but you claim to be progressive, but only when it's convenient for your progressive narrative and your cliques. You claim to be progressive, but whenever people start getting cheated in primaries, we shouldn't be focused on that. We should be just trying to unite and forgetting everything that the Democrats did to screw over progressives. Why? Because, David Pakman doesn't care about the truth, nor does he care about how these elections and the implications of cheating affect people who have real problems. These problems only persist because real progressives are oftentimes kept out of office by way of cheating by the DNC, the same cheating that a David Pakman chooses to ignore. I like how he pushes for regime change in Venezuela, he doesn't push for it. He just kind of is okay with it. You have a problem with everything else Trump does, but you're okay with this. You are a hypocrite, and you're a straight up liar. Tulsi even says it's irrelevant whether or not I agree somebody's a dictator. All that's irrelevant. What is she talking about when it suits her political views? You just brought up Bashar al-Assad, right? What's the other ongoing smear against Tulsi? That she's Islamophobic. What political view could she possibly have that would mean, of course I don't support regime change in Syria because I thought she was Islamophobic. So wouldn't that mean she supports regime change? That's what they say. But then she also doesn't support regime change in Venezuela. So what? I don't get it. Who does that benefit? Her political views on regime change have been consistent. That is the one consistency about her. It doesn't matter if I like the person or not. We shouldn't be conducting regime change because aftermath is always worse when we go than when we left it alone. That's it. But this man just straight up lied, like a whole lie, and he tries to brush it off. But look, we're gonna let him keep on talking.
Tulsi Gabbard is a good fit in this think tank or isn't a good fit. But that's not really the point. I'm just establishing that she's an advisor. The concern is that she didn't list this advisory on her 2017 financial disclosure. Now, you might say, David, hold on a second. It might be an unpaid advisory. If she didn't get paid, there wouldn't be anything to disclose, right? Well, it's possible that it's unpaid. I don't know. I might tend to think it's paid, but it actually doesn't matter. Unpaid positions with organizations, including educational institutions like this one, must be disclosed regardless of whether you get paid.
Now David Pakman is Mr. Gotcha, but he's kind of like Charlie Kirk or Ben Shapiro when it comes to these type of facts, right? They love reading like 90% of the facts, but they don't like reading all the facts. He forgot that little part, the little disclaimer at the bottom that says, yes, you do have to disclose positions like that. Yeah, you do have to disclose finance, even if you're not getting paid by it. But he left out the part where you don't have to disclose it if you're an honorary member of an advisory committee. And I imagine Tulsi doesn't keep any. She disclosed the fact that she was part of the Sanders Institute because she gets paid and she's a member, and you see frequent press releases about it and YouTube videos about it. She's a member of another committee in Hawaii, which she discloses. She's a member of the Center or the Council for Foreign Relations, which is a big thing. Like that's actually, if you wanted to come at her over anything, that could have been it. If you want to be honest, that's like if I had a complaint, but then I also know I see it very similar to how I see Jimmy Dore, and I'll explain that in a second. But my point is, you like how we left that little fact out? If you're an honorary member of an organization, then you don't have to disclose it. In other words, she probably doesn't participate that often. She probably isn't that involved in it. They call her up. They said, hey, do you mind being on this? Because we would love to have your guidance. And you know, it's funny, on the website, they actually tout her anti-interventionism, her pro-peace and pro-environmental policies. Now, some people would even go to say, well, that's not very Koch brother-like. And they would probably be right. See, the problem with the narrative that it's ran by, they receive funding by the Koch brothers. Therefore, it is this institution, this school, receive funding by the Koch brothers. Therefore, all aspects of the Koch brothers are going to be reflected in all the people that are involved in that institution. It's not wise. Now, let's be very clear about something. The Koch brothers have a lot of money. And they do this thing called hedging your bets. So just like and David Pakman loves to leave this part out once again, he's right. The Koch brothers love financing libertarian institutions, libertarian, right-wing, Republican-esque candidates. We left out the part where they also like to fund Democrats. He left that part out. It's interesting to me. But Bernie Sanders made this actually a big part of his campaign last election. In 2016, I think that they had contributed or were on the way to contributing to something like 900 million total. And it wasn't just to the Republicans. The Koch brothers hedged their bets. And if we're going to condemn Tulsi for being part of this advisory board, well, then maybe we should go ahead and go down the list. Maybe we should go ahead and go down the list of other schools the Koch brothers donate to. And we just gotta throw all these out the window. Academy of Art University, Adrian College, Alabama A&M University, American University, Amherst University, Anderson University, Appalachian State University is in the University of North Carolina school system. Shout out to UNC. Aquinas College, Arizona Christian University, Arizona State University, Asbury University, Ashland University, Austin Peay State University, Australia National University, Ave Maria University, Azusa Pacific University, Bell State University, Barton College, Baylor University, Belhaven University in Houston, Bellowa? We'll go with that. Bell University, Barry University, Bethel College, Indiana, Bethel College, Kansas, Bethlehem College and Seminary, Biola University, Birmingham Southern College, Boise State University, Boston College, Boston University. AOC, they're coming after you next. Them Koch brothers. Bowling Green State University, Brescia University, Brigham Young University, Brooklyn Law School, Brown University, Bryan College. Do I need to go further? That was just the A's and the B's. So when I say the Koch brothers have a lot of money, they have a lot of money. They hedge their bets. Would I have rather her not ever be a part of the organization? Yeah, probably. But do I expect her to know the financial background, especially when it's oftentimes not really touted? Do I expect her to know the financial background of every single organization where she thinks she's doing something good? And then it turns out that they're connected to the Koch brothers. 98% of the time, if you're involved in a long-standing organization in politics, and apparently, even if you're going to a school, a university, you are touching money. You are part of money that is either Koch brothers, Soros, or both. Murdoch as well. Like, these people put their money in everything so that when they do need influence, when they need to have power over a decision that is made, then they can have it. That's part of the thing. That's what they do. It's hedging your bets. Soros does it. Koch brothers do it. That's the problem with money in politics. We get all that. 100%. Also, there is a lot of money, or at least you save a lot of money when you're filing your taxes, if you're donating to organizations, nonprofit organizations, schools, foundations like this. So another reason that the Koch brothers do this is because they're trying to save money. Because when you donate, it's only 2.65 million is what they said they donated. 2.65 million people. Do you know what 2.65 million is to the Koch brothers as far as their grand influence in politics in general? 2.65 million to the Koch brothers is the equivalent of us spending $20 on a campaign. That's what that is. Do you understand? That is nothing to them but a tax write-off. Now, interestingly enough, David decided to make most of his commentary about Tulsi Gabbard. He did. He has a bone to pick with Tulsi, clearly. And this isn't the first video he's done about Tulsi Gabbard. This isn't the first one. And all of his videos about Tulsi Gabbard have been negative. None of them have been defending her. And I can guarantee you for damn sure, none of them have been objective at all. And I love when they try to do this play stupid thing. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Like, I do it when I'm being sarcastic and I already know the answer. But he's not. He's trying to pretend he's not being sarcastic. And like, this just kind of worries me because, like, she didn't disclose her finances. Even though in the very rules that he's trying to quote, he leaves out the part that where you're an honorary. Once again, if you're an honorary member, unpaid, as part of an advisory committee, then you're not, like, for example, I was like an honorary advisor of the Tim Canova campaign. I did not receive a paycheck. I was not like on some board of trustees. I didn't help make any financial decisions. I was not the last decision maker in the campaign. But I was still an honorary advisor. Do I have to disclose that if I'm filing my FEC documents? No. So what he is trying to claim is that she's breaking the rules, and it's highly likely that she isn't. But the other part that David conveniently left out is that Tulsi isn't the only progressive. There's another Bernie Crat. Another Bernie Crat is part of this organization. And it's one that many of you are familiar with. And it's because I love how he made sure to use the term Bernie Crat because it jumped my memory. You know, sometimes I need to be reminded of stuff. We cover a lot of topics all day, all night. I just need to jump my memory sometimes. He said Bernie Crat. So I was like, man, you know who else is on this? Dennis Kucinich. Dennis Kucinich is also a part of this organization. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, the one who was just running for governor. Isn't that interesting? Who also, for all intents and purposes, he's a progressive, right? He's a Bernie Crat. He considers himself such. Maybe, I don't know. Is Dennis Kucinich a right-wing Koch brother grifter now? I'm trying to understand, David. Maybe you can help me understand. Because last I checked, Dennis was progressive. Tulsi was progressive. Last I checked, by the way, all of those schools that I just read to you, which was about 30 schools, 40 schools that the Koch brothers are, that was just donations that were made by Charles Koch. That's not even his brother. When I tell you they have their hands in everything, look, everything. David knows this. He does. But he likes to play naive when he gets to play his part. Just like he knew that Ilhan Omar's comments were not anti-Semitic at all, but he likes to play his part. Just like he knew Bernie Sanders got cheated, but he told everybody to go vote for Hillary, ignore all that anyway. In other videos that he's discussed, he talks about the fact that no matter what happens, we have to unite. And that there's no proof of this. But, there is proof. That country that he defends all the time is actually the one trying to influence our political opinions and is actually trying to help lobby legislation that would punish us for having a political opinion about Israel's apartheid regime and all the human rights atrocities that they commit. That guy defends an apartheid regime. Just want everybody to know that. But he's progressive. The same guy who just tried to claim Tulsi Gabbard is conveniently for and against regime change based off of what's politically convenient for her, which is not the case. In fact, right now, it is very politically inconvenient for her to be against regime change. It is really inconvenient. She gets smacked with it every single day with every single interview she has. But I'm supposed to just we're going to take your word for it. Your ass would be the one to talk about what's politically convenient. When I had to, I went from, he's all right. Then I'm just like, man, this dude's just intellectually masturbating himself. Then every now and then, every progressive, especially if you're doing, you're at a show, you're at an event, you're speaking, you might put your name in the video. You might do it. Once every 6 months. David puts his name in like 1 out of every 4 of his videos where it's basically him just intellectually masturbating. That's what the whole video is about. His coverage was so bad, I eventually had to unsubscribe. On top of that, all he did for 2.5 years was talk about Donald fucking Trump and the Russiagate conspiracy that he built a lot of his fake audience on. That is no longer a thing. And he still uses that talking point, by the way. I believe he uses it in his video. This man is full of shit. I listen to, like, he's just pompous. He doesn't actually care about the implications of the things he's, like, you can really judge somebody. And I need people to understand this. If this is your first time talking to me, people who have been at this channel since we had 1,000 subscribers 2 years ago will tell you, damn all this broadcasting stuff, I'm an activist first. I only began to broadcast because people asked me to. I didn't become a broadcaster to make a career out of it. I didn't become a broadcaster because it was some lucrative a job. Like, it's lucrative to be on. Understand something. As many people will tell you, when you're on the side of truth on YouTube, like the legitimate truth, not that far right-wing nonsensical BS, not the Charlie Kirks of the world. I'm not going to say some other names, but not the Dave Pakmans of the world. They try to pretend like they're giving you the real independent. No, I'm talking about the real truth. There's nothing lucrative about that. You're always hindering your ability to make money when you're on the side of the truth. I didn't do this because it was lucrative. I did this because I'm an activist, and this is a form of my activism, because I am tired of seeing people suffer by not having access to health care. I'm tired of seeing people suffer because they have to choose between joining the military and having health care, getting a free education, or going in debt to get an education for a job that is telling them it is a requirement to have a degree, but it's going to pay them nowhere near what they're worth anyway. I am tired of all the problems like regime change wars, like the prison industrial complex, like the military industrial complex in general. All the problems that persist because of the damn election rigging that people like David Pakman, people like Cenk Uygur, Anna Kasparian, I'm naming names, I don't give a damn. All those people tell you to ignore it. All those people were mad at you because you were like, Russia ain't still a damn thing. Russia's not the reason I voted for Bernie Sanders. Russia didn't influence me to do a damn thing. I'm not even gonna lie, most of Bernie supporters had no idea who the hell Vladimir Putin was until they started talking about it on the news. I'm gonna be honest with you. They're like, who's Vladimir Putin? For real, this is true. It's true. But the people like David tell you to ignore the very problems that allow our issues in this country and abroad to persist. And if you actually cared about the people that we're supposed to be broadcasting to, you wouldn't do things like this. You wouldn't be this disingenuous. You would be about holding people accountable and telling the truth with actual objectivity. But he doesn't, I don't know, he doesn't care. You know why? David started 12, 13 years ago now? It was all about money. He wants to tote that MSNBC light line, like the Sam Cedars of the world. And this is how he does it. There are several people in this industry who are activists first. Myself, Kim Iverson, Jimmy Dore, Tim Black, Ron Placone, Lee Camp. I know I'm forgetting some people, but y'all know who you are. Oh, of course, Fiorella and Craig from the Convo Couch on our network. If you go to any given event, you'll be very likely to see them there, not only holding a camera, not only holding a microphone, but holding a sign. And a lot of the times, in the case of some of those people, you might even have found out they organized the event because they're activists. They're activists first. Those are the voices you should be listening to. Whether or not we all disagree with each other on everything, because we don't agree with each other on everything. We don't agree with each other on everything. Half of those people have committed to voting for Tulsi. The other half have committed to voting for Bernie. Guess what? They also get along. Because we know what our mission is. And no matter what our decisions are, we know that those decisions are based off of what we feel are best for the people. Not for our careers. Let me continue with the rest of this video. Because he's not done. He's not done. It gets worse.
Gabbard's office was asked for an explanation as to why this was not on her financial disclosure. She didn't give an answer. And this is actually becoming a trend with Tulsi Gabbard. She claims to be about transparency, but she's not actually practicing transparency. Another example of this is a couple of years ago in 2017, Tulsi Gabbard went to Lebanon and Syria and met with Bashar al-Assad, who is the Syrian dictator accused of using chemical weapons against his own people. Initially, she refused.
I just want to be clear about something. The Syrian dictator who was elected by his people and is wildly popular in the Middle East. But once again, that's just David casually phrasing things that are politically convenient for his narrative.
To say who even paid for the trip. At the time, her office was asked multiple times, and they said it wasn't funded by taxpayers. That's all we're willing to say. We eventually found out because two brothers, Eli and Bassam Kawam, said they paid for the trip, that the trip was actually paid for by these brothers who are connected to a group linked to the Assad regime and accused of pretty significant anti-Semitism. Of course, both claims that in their defense, the Kawam brothers deny. So this...
Bruh, did y'all just hear that? Did you hear how he just tried to... First of all, we're talking about Syria. We're not talking about Syria, but everybody, anytime you bring up Tulsi's name, Syria comes up. Yeah, I remember that, how that entire situation went down. And I, in real time, was beyond... Oh, hold up. Did I actually... I hope I... Okay, good. We're good. So, I want to make sure that we're still live. I remember in real time being incredibly impressed with Tulsi Gabbard. Because at that time, I wasn't even 100% educated on the Syrian conflict. And I was kind of like, wow... If she's going to visit, then I need to know more about this. I need to try my hardest to understand where she's coming from. So because of Tulsi going and then the media all attacking her for it, well, let's be honest, when the media all jumps, like when the Democrats and Republicans team up to attack one person, oh yeah, I got to go start doing some research because that might mean that Tulsi was probably on the right side of history at that time. And of course, that's what she does. Now, I'm not going to say that she didn't get the money from these brothers. Probably. I'm not going to say that they're not connected to the Assad, quote unquote, regime. Because I'm going to say this, and this might sound a little crazy, but Pakman probably knows this. And he seems to have no problem with it. Netanyahu is a goddamn sociopathic, genocidal maniac, right? I think we can all agree on that. I don't give a damn if he's Jewish, Muslim, black, white, yellow, crayon, marker. dog, cat. I don't care. He's a genocidal, sociopathic maniac and a white supremacist. Now, David, this little lobbying group, you might be familiar with it. I don't know. Since we're all playing stupid today. Little group called AIPAC, right? They've been known. We're on the street. Wall Street Journal, The Intercept, New York Times, literally everybody. We're on the street is that they're connected to the Israeli government that is ran by this genocidal maniac. Now, interestingly enough, I've never heard of you refer to the Israeli government as the Netanyahu regime, despite the fact that we all know, including the Israeli people, he cheated in order to keep that regime. And that he runs it in an imperialistic, authoritarian fashion like a regime is ran. And you know what those AIPAC people that are affiliated with that Netanyahu regime did? They got a bunch of politicians. They rounded them all up. And they went to go to Israel at the behest and at the funding of that AIPAC group linked to the Netanyahu regime that we know is actively trying to influence American politics. David, where's your video at? Because this is an outrage, right? How can two brothers that are connected to a government entity reach out to a woman who is anti-interventionist, who has always been very open-minded, who has been willing to seek out the truth when it comes to foreign relations and foreign affairs? How dare they reach out to the only sane person, seemingly, in Congress? And I'm pretty sure if we go and research that she probably wasn't the only one that they reached out to. She was the only one that accepted the offer. So she went to Syria in secret because she knew exactly how the media react. And of course, what did the media do? React exactly how they wanted her to, or she expected them to. And guess what? One government official had a trip funded by two people connected to the government. I don't know if they're officials, but they were connected to the government of the other country. And even though she didn't specifically go to see Assad, she did see Assad while she was there, although she was not supposed to. She was there to see what was happening in Syria, not necessarily what was happening with Assad personally. But Assad invited her, so of course she went. So you're telling me that government officials met with government officials to figure out what was going on in a government situation where the government is involved and our government is involved and she votes on issues involving both governments? Oh my God, David, you might be onto something. You might be onto something. House and Sunset. But how can David be wrong? He quotes himself with inspirational pictures all the time. I'm telling you, he might be onto something, people. It's almost as if David is trying to suggest that Syria allies with the government may have undue influence on our government official, the one official who's went in the last 7 years. Our government official. They have undue influence, and David seems to have a problem with that. But he only seems to have a problem with it when it's a Middle Eastern country with Middle Eastern conflicts trying to find peace with, he only has a problem when it happens with the countries that we are intervening in. But you don't have a problem with that when it comes to Israel. You want to talk about accused of using chemical weapons that he was later found not guilty of. By the way, I love how you left that part out. Once again, David, that's what he does. You want to talk about accused? You want to talk about alleged? We don't have to allege shit with Israel. They just got found by the United Nations for purposely killing women, children, journalists. We don't have to allege shit with Israel. But you don't have a problem with them spending their money on our politicians to go over there and kiss Netanyahu's ass. But you got the nerve to talk about Tulsi Gabbard because she accepted some money to go on a fact-finding mission in a hope to broker peace in a nation that we destroyed with our foreign aid. Yeah, there were other politicians who went. There were other politicians who probably went to weigh out Assad. Is he like his father? Is he as will he be as successful as his father when it comes to protecting the interests of Syria? What does their military look like? What does their oil money look like? What does their economy look like? What's the argument that we can use? Because in case y'all didn't know, all those politicians who went before were the beginning of 2012. Of course, nobody went back afterwards. Because what happened in 2012? That's all. That's right. Like maybe 3 months after that, we became the leading country in delivering humanitarian aid to Syria. And of course, you know what happens when we're the leading country in your aid, or leading country in giving aid. Your economy collapses and we destroy your government soon after. And hundreds of thousands of your citizens die. And all of a sudden, where there was no rebel faction before, all those rebels have weapons. And coincidentally enough, all those weapons say made in the USA. It's a coincidence, I'm sure. But let's talk about just how crazy it is for Tulsi to have decided to go visit Syria, so people can potentially not die at the hands of a regime change created by the United States. That's it. That's all she wants, is for people to have the potential to not die. That's all. David's okay with people dying. David's okay with an apartheid state. David's okay with the fact that refugees, at the behest of the Israeli government, have been treated like trash, to the point where there are even false stories of rape allegations put out about these refugees by the government, and they got caught lying about it. But you don't hear about these stories from David Pakman, do you? And David never passes up a chance to talk about literally everything. I mean, when it works. But there ain't no way to frame I support an apartheid government, not in a nice way. Ain't no way to frame the apartheid government I support killed 50 innocent people with snipers over some rocks. No nice way to frame that. But please, David, continue to pontificate from your high horse. I'm going to let her finish it out, and then we'll finish up the video.
Is a growing trend with Tulsi Gabbard, and I don't know whether anyone in our audience is still even thinking about supporting Tulsi Gabbard for the 2020 Democratic primary nomination. I've said before, I don't get the appeal. I've identified who are my top sort of 2, 3, 4 contenders. But for me, this is just the furthest thing within the Democratic Party that I could see myself supporting, and the lack of financial disclosure is certainly a concern, to put it lightly. And if anyone wants to explain to me, I mean, listen, I want to tell you what the world is like as I see it, okay? If someone wants to get in touch with me and say, David, here's why the lack of disclosure should not be at all concerning to you. Here's why the lack of transparency around the meeting with Bashar al-Assad should not be concerning to you. I'm all ears. Let me know why it is that I shouldn't be concerned by those
My bad, guys. Got too hype. So what I was saying was that David pretends as if he is all ears. He pretends that. He says that, right? He's like, if I may be wrong, if I am, please just somebody let me know. He doesn't really believe that. He doesn't. And when he says that, I get physically irritated because I know he doesn't believe it. And there is because if he believed it, you would have introduced the story from an objective standpoint. He said, if there are legitimate reasons for why I shouldn't be concerned for Bashar al-Assad, then maybe I'll be okay. You could have found those reasons yourself. You're a quote unquote journalist. You seem like a pretty intelligent human being. I guess. Why didn't you? You could have literally. You could have literally researched, and it would have came up like that. It would have came up like that. Oh, why did Tulsi visit Bashar al-Assad? Well, okay, I ain't gonna say. So don't use Google. I'll admit that. Use DuckDuckGo. And it could have came back. You would have found out, oh, she didn't actually go to see Bashar al-Assad. She went to go see what was happening in Syria. And Bashar al-Assad invited her. Like, that could have been easily researched. And if you wanted to, if you actually desired to hear both sides, then you could have did that. Like he's alleging at the end of the video. But let's be very clear, people. He don't want to hear both sides. He said that pretty much throughout the entire Russiagate scandal, right? Both sides. Hey, if there's a reason to not believe this completely ludicrous conspiracy theory that has literally never been proved, then let me know. I would really like to know. I might even change my mind. There is a technical term for that, and I wish I could think of it. There's an academic term for it. If you know what it is, please tell me. But I can't remember right now because I'm so irritated. But basically, he is trying to pretend that he wants to hear both sides. And there is a legitimate way to hear both sides, to acknowledge both sides, which he has not even made an attempt to do. And you can still be wrong. But at least at the end of the day, you still have your integrity. Now, for example, I did a video yesterday talking about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's chief of staff, who is a co-founder of the Justice Democrats, and him basically laundering money into Brand New Congress LLC. That's basically what he did. It's a tactic that I've seen done over and over again. To the tune of $1 million, right? They raised $3 million total. Most of the money came from being fundraised through AOC's campaign. That ended up in Brand New Congress LLC. We have no idea where the money went. Here's how you cover that objectively. I mentioned, the first thing I said was, now, this article and basically all the right-wing articles covering this are going to try to link this to LLC or to AOC. Do not let them do that. They'll frame it like that, but that's not the real story. I'm not going to say she doesn't know or didn't know. I can't say that for a fact. But I can probably guess if even Kyle knew this, or if Cenk, and I don't even like Cenk, but even if they knew this, it would have been a problem. And the fundraising for Justice Democrats didn't pick up until after Kyle and Cenk left. So that probably explains why we never heard anything about it. But they move $1 million. That was problematic to me. So I covered it. But I framed it correctly. No, AOC was not a part of this. If it is true, then it needs to be discussed. The AOC should address it directly. You hear how that's not me attacking AOC? I said she probably, if it is true, she should have known. And I don't think she did know. But once again, I also talk about the fact, I also introduce contextual observations like she didn't have control of her infrastructure in Justice Democrats. And if she really wanted to be a congresswoman, there's a very good chance that she had no other choice but to join the Justice Democrats if she had a chance to win. Now, the trade-off with that is you don't have control of your infrastructure. A brief example I can give you is when her anti-war rhetoric got deleted off of her website and people were like, put it back up, put it back up, put it back up. And she was like, I didn't know it was deleted. I didn't delete it. And I was telling people back then, she doesn't have control of her infrastructure. That includes finances at the time for Justice Democrats. So I made sure to bring all that stuff up because if you want to acknowledge both sides, then he could have, but he doesn't want to. Now, he once again says, well, you can convince me that I shouldn't be as concerned about the failure to disclose the finances in that regard, which I already explained to you. If you read one more line, it says, oh, but if you're an honorary advisor, you don't have to disclose a damn thing. And considering Tulsi discloses Council of Foreign Relations, once again, if there was anything I would be worried about, it would be that one. If she's going to disclose that, I think that this honorary advisor position is not really that big of a deal. For her, I mean. She would disclose it if it was required. But the last thing he says is, if there's any reason I shouldn't be worried about the Bashar al-Assad thing, you could have looked it up. But real quick, you hear how he said, I let you know my top 3 or 4 candidates. 3 or 4? Hold up, dog. There's 2 progressives running in this race. There's 2. Bernie Sanders, Tulsi Gabbard. Bernie Sanders, Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard, Bernie Sanders. Bernie, Tulsi, Tulsi, Bernie. And Nina if she decided to run, but she's not running. What do you mean 3 or 4? Because you said that the lack of transparency in the finances were the issue, right? That's because that's a progressive issue. Once again, it's a politically convenient issue that David has made out of Tulsi Gabbard's lack of transparency for money that she doesn't receive. That's a weird type of. But if I recall, you actually have been celebrating Elizabeth Warren. At least that's what the word on the street is, and that's what I've seen in your videos. So yeah. You don't think that she's as strong as she used to be, but you said that she has the most name recognition and blah, 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 blah. And I don't see what the appeal is about Tulsi Gabbard. I just don't see it. That anti-war stuff is just not appealing to me. David, if you don't say Tulsi Gabbard, and you're telling me who your top 3 or 4 people are, there should be one left if you're progressive. That's Bernie Sanders. But if your issue is with money, why is Elizabeth Warren even an option, considering she still takes corporate money and has, and is pro-regime change and always has been? I'm a little confused, David. What do you stand for exactly? Now, I mean to bring this up because if you're watching and you were a David Pakman fan or are a David Pakman fan, when they don't stand for anything, they'll fall for everything and tell you to fall right there with them. As long as it gets them clicks and views. As long as it gets them paid. So yeah, he's going to say a few things about Tulsi Gabbard. Like I said, all this information about Tulsi Gabbard, if he would have did a lick of research, he said, I can't believe a Bernie-crat like Tulsi Gabbard would be on this foundation that has some Koch brother money. For this school, because it's for the school. That's what it is, really. This his school has Koch brother money, and in the foundation that she's a part of, she's an advisor, and she's a Bernie-crat, and oh yeah, once again, he conveniently leaves out the fact that Dennis Kucinich is also a Bernie-crat and is also an advisor here. And he also leaves out the fact that, can you believe Koch brothers have invested in this school to the tune of $2.6 million? That's, once again, that's $20. That's the Koch brothers taking $20 out of their pocket and putting it on the table. That's what just happened. But he left out the part, once again, because it's a school. I can start with the C's now. This is just from Charles Koch. Caring University, California Lutheran University, California State University Chico, California State University Fresno, California State University Sacramento, California State University San Bernardino, Carthage College, Catholic University of America, the one that we're talking about, Cedarville University, Central Carolina Community College, Chevrolet Institute, Chapman University, Charleston Southern University, Chestnut Hill College, Christopher Newport University, City University of New York, that's CUNY, City University of New York City College, City University of New York John Jay College of Criminal Justice, Claflin University, Claremont once again, I think I made my point. That's halfway through the C's of the colleges and universities that just Charles Koch has given money to. So you know what? All of those kids better... No, that's silly. Billionaires hedge their bets when they're trying to, one, influence everything, and two, when they're trying to save money on taxes, which is what all those donations do, by the way. He makes a big deal. Listen, people. I'm going to go back. Okay, I want to make sure I get the college name right. Catholic University of America is the college that we're talking about right now. In the middle of that, like, that college is listed in the middle of literally over 100 universities, colleges, and community colleges that just Charles Koch puts money into. Don't you think that these are facts that matter? I think so. If you want to make such an allegation. Don't you think when you try to invoke the Bernie-crat label as to basically try and he's invoking it maliciously. He's being sarcastic. Oh, you're a Bernie-crat. Yeah. And say that, oh yeah, but look at this. You can't be a Bernie-crat and be on this, but you left out the part where Dennis Kucinich is on it too. Why you leave that part out? Or the part where you actually don't have to disclose it if you're an advisor. Or the fact that Tulsi didn't go to meet his side. Or the fact that he was not you want to say that he was he alleged chemical attacks, but you left out the fact where Jim Mattis himself said we didn't find any proof of chemical weapons. All these things you conveniently leave out while making this argument makes me think you may not be genuine in your broadcasting, David. I don't know. Maybe I'm just overthinking things. I would love to know your thoughts and opinions about this, people. So hit that subscribe button. Help us hit 500 patrons on Patreon. You know how I feel, people. I've said this since the end of 2016. It's vetting season. And I'm not going to lie. Yeah, David's going to jump on that Bernie train hard. We know it because that's where a majority of his support came from. It's being on that Bernie train and then riding that neoliberal Russiagate wave. But understand something. Just because you pretend like you're with us doesn't mean you're with us. And David is the type of person where if Tulsi Gabbard won, he'd probably attack Tulsi. So be wary of people like that. Call them out. Thank you guys for I wish I could remember the subscriber who gave this to me. I appreciate you calling it to my attention. I really do. And for everybody else, people who are subscribed to this channel, who follow me on Twitter and Facebook, will tell you, if you send me suggestions, it's highly likely that I'll end up using the suggestion. So feel free to DM me. Feel free to message me, to tag me on Twitter and stories. Hey, seriously, I will cover the story if it's something that I, one, have time to do, and two, that I think is important. So thank you for this story. I greatly appreciate it. I got to get onto it early before it caught fire so we can debunk all that nonsense. Thank you so much, people. Like I said, like, subscribe, share this video, donate to our Patreon, and more than anything else, always remember, find your balance. Peace.